And on the line, I've got Representative Drew Springer. Representative, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I looked at your Facebook page a little while ago. You've got quite a family. How many children do you have?
I've got 3 kids. I've got Austin, Grant, and Kate. One just graduated college, has a job out in West Texas over in Denver City, and got another one in college, and I've got one who's a senior in high school.
You're not a stranger to the Chad Hasty Show, and I know Chad's had you on before, but tell me a little bit about House District 68. One of the factoids I've read is that if you were a state in the Union, you'd be the 42nd largest?
That is correct. I'm twice the size of Maryland. I'm 22 counties. I've got the most counties of any state representative. It stretches from Cook County at I-35 in the Red River north of Denton all the way over to Garza, Crosby, Floyd County as it goes up to Hall County, which is Memphis, and up into the Panhandle of Wheeler County, which is Shamrock. A lot of people know there on I-40, and about 25,000 square miles.
One of the laws that went into effect today is the texting while driving law. Now, I've ridden with other state representatives and state senators, and I've got to tell you, a lot of them do text and drive. Are you going to break yourself of that habit?
I have to break myself of that habit. I've got to say it's a bad one.
Yep. And
you know, hey, we all make excuses. We say, well, look, I'm on a county road or I'm on a state highway between Guthrie and Dickens, and there's nobody else around. I'm checking my mirrors. I can get a quick text off, and you know, it really is a bad thing to do, and we all need to start obeying that.
770-5790 if you'd like to talk to Representative Springer. You were down in Rockport this week. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. You know, I've had the opportunity to go down and joined by Representative Dustin Burrows out of Lubbock there, and so two of us were talking on the phone, and we're sitting here watching everything that's gone on, and you know, we thought about taking boats to Houston. The problem with that is once you get to the first ring, you really can't get in and in and in. And I talked to some of the emergency management guys, and they said, you know, that really some of the real issues is helping out in Rockport, right where the hurricane hit. We went down there. Probably 25 to 35% of the houses were just clearly totaled. Everybody else had some level of damage. And what Dustin and I did is we made sure we cleared all the roads and cleared all the driveways so homeowners had access and to get back into their houses to see what damage they had. And, you know, you know you're doing good when all of a sudden you see a bunch of retirees who've chosen to live on the coast come up to you and they just start coming back in from highland and just thanking you that they can get back in and see what the damage is, and your heart goes out to them, and they're still so appreciative of what we're doing. It just it's a tough situation they've got going on down there, and you know we just can't forget those, especially small towns.
At the beginning of the week, there was a little political hay made by both sides on the intersection of the rainy day fund and the Harvey relief. Can you talk a little bit about that? What your feelings are?
You know, hey, that's one of the things we always said was, you know, there was a whole lot of people who wanted to spend down that rainy day fund to do a bunch of other things. You know, we knew that, you know, unfortunately one of these days might be coming. I think we all wish it was another decade in the future, but it's here, and that's why we didn't spend it down. You know, we're going to have to look at it. I heard an estimate yesterday that now they're saying that, you know, Harvey may be more expensive than Sandy and Katrina combined, and that's like $230 billion. Now, clearly there's insurance, there's the federal government, there's some things that won't be paid, and then there is going to be the state response to that. And it's going to be tough coming back in next session or the special session that may get called because of it, to make sure we fund that relief effort.
How do you see the governor's response to Harvey so far in terms of his effectiveness, his leadership?
You know, I think the governor's done a fantastic job. He's been hands-on. He's been down to Rockport numerous times. You know, right there they've got an Austin Relief Center where they're doing evacuees. He's calling in the federal resources, working with the Trump administration to make sure they have, everything that they possibly could have. I think it was the right call to make sure that the National Guard got activated, that we get all those boots on the ground to help out in whatever manner it might be. It is definitely always better to have a few too many than a few too little to do those type of things. And so it's not a perfect world, though. I mean, God's put us in these situations, and we've got to work through. We've got to help neighbor. We can't rely on the government to fix everything for us. But, I think Governor Abbott's done a fantastic job on this. And, it's early in the game, though, and it's going to be a long game. But I expect him to continue to lead in this.
Have you talked to any of your colleagues, any other members from the Beaumont or Houston areas?
I have, early on and really in the last couple of days, I haven't as much as I should have. I talked to Representative Dade Phelan out of Beaumont about 3 days before, really probably 3-4 days ago, and he was doing great. His picture is the one that's gone viral on the internet that probably has been seen like 800,000 times, where there's white caps on I-10, viewed off the back of the boat. That was Representative Phelan who took that, and they're going through a tough time there. But I've talked to several of the representatives in Houston, to reach out to them to find out, what can we do, how can we help. The media does a fantastic job of keeping us informed from the camera standpoint, but a lot of times, the pictures that make the greatest are those where, boats are rescuing people. But, not 6.5 million people are underwater in Harris County. Yeah. And so we'll have to figure that out later on, how many are really effective, who just got somehow blessed to be having 45 inches of rain on the rooftop in a week and then not flood. So, those guys are going to be the lucky ones.
I've got another minute left in this segment, and if you can you come back for another 10 minutes?
Sure can.
I want to ask you real quick. You mentioned another special session. Before Harvey, what did you expect to come back one more time, maybe to take another whack at property tax reform, or not?
I probably had about a 50-50 chance we might come back. I thought it might be the first part of next year, maybe even after the primaries, to do it. And it was more going to be based on constituents' outcry that they needed something and that the governor heard it and moved forward. Now, constituents don't, i.e. the citizens of Texas, don't, voice their displeasure that we took care of it. And I worked hard to come to a compromise between the House and the Senate, and I thought we could have gotten it with several people, but we didn't get there, and it was very disappointing. I think, we need to negotiate those things through and get it. But, in the light of the hurricane, it may be tough to come back and focus on anything but hurricane relief.
Yeah.
And tax relief may very well have to wait till next session.
I agree with you. It's going to be hard to kind of combine them if that's possible at all. We're talking to Representative Drew Springer. District 68 just came back from the Gulf to help with cleanup efforts, and Representative will be back with you in a few minutes. You're listening to News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. And we're back on the Chad Hasty Show, Open Phones Friday, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. We've got Representative Drew Springer on the line. Before we get back to Representative Springer, did want to mention we've got 2 tickets left to the Hub City Barbecue on September 21st. We'll take the third caller for those tickets on the 21st. All the barbecue you can get your hands on between the hours, I think, of 5 and 8 p.m. Representative, wanted to change gears for a second, talk about stem cell legislation. Let's leave all the back and forth that happened on the floor and the Freedom Caucus and the Tea Party and votes and how all that was jiggered through and even let's kind of leave your speech, which on the bill, which was very heartfelt, of course, but let's get into the whole the stem cell situation. I've got acquaintances here in town and then back east who've been to Costa Rica and the Dominican Republic and have paid $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 for stem cell treatments in medical conditions which are far below the quality and control of the American medical establishment. And, I worry about that they're spending a lot of money They really don't know what they're getting. And I'd like you to talk for a few minutes about your legislation and what impact you think it's going to have on those families that are looking for help, not exactly a cure, but to make a loved one feel better.
No, Matt, you're exactly right. There's at this stage, probably is not going to be that ultimate cure for whether it's MS, whether it's Parkinson's, or in the case I talked about, my wife with spinal cord injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be overnight. It's going to be the fact that it's quality of life. That's what you're looking at improving there, and but to your point, I mean, folks are having to travel out of the country, and not everybody can get out of country, especially when you're early injury or you're deep into those MS conditions. You can't fly 4 or 5 hours to be able to go see treatment. And it just astounds me that we wait on the FDA, and when you're treating it with your own body, the FDA is not real excited about, hey, let's have something take over where we would rather see a new drug come on the market in that sense. And I think, patients have that right to use their own bodies, treat their own illnesses. Some of the top things in the U.S. are being done right here in Texas. So there's 2 big-time clinics that will load you up. They'll treat your spine, your stem cells. They'll get them all ready to put back into your body. And then you have to fly down to Cancun or to Panama or somewhere else to have the procedure done. And it's just crazy. And so, it probably is the thing I was the most excited about over session, and it really was the bill passing more than the antics that unfortunately had to take place to get it passed.
Well, yeah, and that's unfortunate, but I think the whole premise of the bill and the meat on the bones, the outcomes and the deliverables of it far outweigh all the shenanigans that went on around it. Aside from what happened on the floor and the kind of the inside baseball stuff, did you encounter any resistance from the pharmaceutical industry or the medical industry on the bill? I will say this: the pharmaceutical industry, which you might have thought would have, really did not. The medical community was really sort of mixed on it, which was disappointing in that regards. I understand we have the FDA, and the FDA has stopped some great things. But when all their examples of why we didn't need to do stem cells were from the 1960s, I think it was crazy. And I was glad that my colleagues, both in the House and the Senate, came through with it. I think the night that we passed it through the House, the governor tweeted out that he was ready to see it on his desk to sign it. And we're going to see. And this will be the side benefit. We will see medical tourism come to Texas because people would rather have treatments done in the United States than think that they have to go to second and third world countries to have medical procedures done. It's interesting because I think Texas has a real opportunity, much like with MD Anderson and cancer treatment, for stem cell treatments. And I think we'd be foolish not to grab that opportunity. For a variety of reasons, not the least of which the humanitarian and the medical aspects of it. But like you said, from an economic development, why can't we be known as the stem cell therapy capital of the world? I mean, what's in our way? What's going to stop us from doing that?
No, and that's where this bill stepped in, and hopefully that's what we're about to see. And to the doubters, all I have to say is, look at 2 elected officials. The one I took the place of, Rick Hardcastle, which was the prior rep for HD 68, he had MS so bad that he couldn't take a step up a stair without somebody helping him to take a step down a stage. And he now, since he's had stem cell treatments out of country, he's been able to come and walk the halls of the Capitol and make sure rural issues are heard. And then we all see Secretary Rick Perry, former governor, and know that what he went through and how it helped his back recoup. So, we know that this stuff works. We've seen the positive results. We need to quit fighting it. We need to move forward, and I'm excited about this bill doing that.
How much time did you have to spend yourself personally to explain to people that these weren't embryonic but adult stem cells?
There was hours and hours, and hey, I understand. People hear stem cells, and we think of that early days, the embryonic,
yeah,
and the fact that we were, that it was anti-life that we were doing that. And so yes, we do have to spend hours, but I'm hoping that we quickly get that word out. Embryonic stem cells, researchers will tell you, is no good because they're like kids. They're juveniles. They don't behave like you want them to do. And so adult stem cells and the research that these guys have done is really the answer to it. It's using your own body to be able to do that. So I think we just got to, and I appreciate that question because the general public needs to know we're not talking about embryonics when we talk about this.
And it's an interesting quotient. It's one I talked to staff in Austin about and other members. It's all in the marketing and promotion of the bill. You've got to explain the reason for the legislation and the cause and effect of legislation, proposed legislation, right out of the gate. If you don't, there's a vacuum and the narrative gets stolen from you. And I thought that's kind of what happened on the bathroom bill. That's kind of what happened on the property tax reform bill. It's almost like writing good legislation isn't good enough. You almost have to have a marketing arm of your office to deliver the truth. But I really appreciate your time, Representative Springer, and thank you for your help in the Gulf. I can't, boy, that just says a lot about you as a person that you went down there and did that. Anything we should know what's happening in the 68th right now?
Well, I'm about to start my town halls. We'll be doing 56 town halls covering about 5,000 miles in the next probably 6 to 8 weeks. And so I'll be sending messages out, so just be looking for those, and we'll make sure you guys have it as well. Representative
Drew Springer, everyone, thank you, Representative. You've been listening to Open Phone Fridays on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM. Have a great game, have a great day, and go to the game tomorrow and push Tech to win.
Thanks, Matt.